So today, May 30th, the Hollywood Reporter reported that NBC Universal is going to be paying WWE $1.325 billion over 5 years to retain Raw. And as previously reported, Fox is going to be paying $1.025 billion over 5 years to pick up SmackDown. So it's going to be a total valuation of $2.35 billion, which is more than 3 times what they're currently getting with NBC Universal. And there were some very interesting tidbits in that Hollywood Reporter story. You read it, right?
Yes, I did.
Interesting stuff in that story. So, for one thing, the story reports that Stephanie McMahon and Triple H were in the Fox pitch meeting representing WWE alongside Michelle Wilson and George Barrios, who were the co-presidents, and then they had representatives from their agency and investment advisors and whatnot. Anyone that thinks that Shane McMahon is the heir apparent to the throne based on his birthright, this is probably yet another...
Hold on, sir. What if he sells the Chinese VOD rights?
Right. Exactly.
That could happen.
You could pick up $100,000 a year over 5 years for that.
He's got experience in the business.
Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. No, but anybody that thinks that Shane is the heir apparent, think again. Hunter and Stephanie are going to be running the show, and that's just further proof. There was a couple of interesting tidbits in the story that one of them really surprised me, and that is the fact that Rupert Murdoch was in the meeting.
Oh yeah,
that shocked the hell out of me, man.
Yeah, me too. Well, you know what? It's like you often hear about. Like whenever they want to really get somebody, like a sports team is recruiting somebody.
Right.
If John Calipari of the Kentucky Wildcats wants a player, he's visiting them in person.
Right. Yeah.
He's getting it done. He's not sending his assistant coach. He's not sending Kenny Payne out there. He's showing up at that kid's game to recruit him. And Rupert Murdoch's old 87-year-old wrinkly ass made it there.
He did. You know something, man? I've become so desensitized as a wrestling fan from years of disrespect that I was shocked that Rupert Murdoch was there, meaning that Fox really wanted the deal. And something else that I thought was interesting in the story. So Lachlan Murdoch, who is Rupert's son, and he's the CEO of Fox. And I think one of Shane's kids might be named Lachlan. Or maybe Declan. Could be Declan. But anyway, Lachlan reportedly called Stephanie McMahon after the meeting to herald the marriage between the two families, the marriage of the Murdoch and the McMahon families. And I just was ready to regurgitate my lunch when I read that. But this is a massive thing for WWE, and there was something else in the story that I thought was interesting. There was a quote from a former Fox staffer, and this is what they said. They said, quote, "We could not sell UFC. Wrestling
I was about to bring that up.
Okay, I said we could not sell UFC. Then they said wrestling is family friendly. If you have wrestling, you can find cash. I think it's a big win for Fox. It's a great trade-off." We talked about this last week. 2 years ago, this was just unfathomable. Like, it was just not possible 2 years ago. And now you essentially had Fox pass on the UFC, essentially, in order to get the SmackDown brand. It's amazing. And for a Fox staffer to say we couldn't sell UFC. WWE has long been known as the big rated entity that you couldn't sell to advertisers.
While UFC, although in the similar category, not to the degree of WWE, and I had a lot of people comparing the deals, and I was like, well, they were like, well, WWE is just a weekly show. Yeah, but it's also every week. Yes. ESPN's getting like 42 events. However, they're getting more hours of content than WWE. It's really, really hard to compare, quantify, but apparently those UFC shows aren't getting any shorter, which is, I think, a nightmare. A nightmare covering stuff like that. But yeah, man, I'm glad that wrestling has shaken that stigma, because it should have a long time ago.
I mean, this deal is stupid. For WWE, it's phenomenal. So basically, it breaks down to $265 million a year for Raw, $205 million a year for SmackDown. You got to keep in mind, SmackDown is currently 2 hours, Raw is currently 3 hours, which means that the two deals are actually pretty comparable.
Yeah, I expected 1.3 to 1.5 billion
for Raw.
For Raw,
right,
yes.
right. Yeah, so it's massive for WWE, and so like we talked about last week, I'm very curious to find out what's going to happen now in terms of talent. Because they're going to expect something. They're going to expect their share of this deal. So we'll see what happens, man. You know? It's very interesting.
I mean, I think it's yeah, and did you see what Rupert Murdoch had told WWE during the meeting?
Yeah, but how NBC Universal was embarrassed by your product.
I mean, 1.35 billion is an awful lot to give somebody that you're embarrassed of, right?
I mean, he did what he did to try to get that show because NBC Universal passed on SmackDown anyway. And,
they had to.
Yeah, they did.
Couldn't afford
they couldn't afford it. It's true. And apparently, Rupert Murdoch told WWE that Fox is going to embrace the brand and promote it across sports programming every night of the week. So this is big for WWE. There's no other way to put it. It's big for WWE.
So the funny thing is, Showdown Joe and I often talk about how when a UFC show is on, if you're not Sean Ross Sapp or you're not Showdown Joe, somebody who has to tune in and watch it all the time, you might not know what channel it's on.
Mm-hmm.
Spike, YouTube, Facebook, Fight Pass, Pay-Per-View, FS1, FS2, FX. They've been on FXX before, Fuel, Versus, Ion. I could go on and on. Now they are on the ESPN family of networks. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And for a while they've been just on Fox, the Fox networks, but there are so many Fox networks right now that they air on. Now WWE is going to be split a little bit more, and we've seen that in the past. We've seen them syndicated. We've seen them on USA, on My Network TV or whatever trash that was. But ultimately, you're tuning into the network, USA or Fox. Do you think that helps or hurts them from just wanting to tune in and catch some wrestling standpoint? Maybe somebody who hasn't in a while.
How do you think that affects them? I think so. Raw's gonna be just fine. Nothing's happening with Raw. SmackDown, historically Fridays are a bad night for wrestling, but WWE's never been in a position like this where they're going to be on a major network every week that's promising to promote the show every night of the week across their sports programming. They've never had this opportunity in terms of promotion, and so I expect that at the least the very first episode on Fox is going to do a big number, because if they promote it, they say they're going to. I think there's going to be a lot of curiosity that first week. I don't think they're going to be able to maintain it, but even if they're able to do what they're doing right now on NBC Universal on a Friday night, I think Fox is going to be cool with that. I think. So we'll see what happens, but honestly, you would think, given how much promotion opportunity they have, that they should be able to at least equate Raw's ratings, you would think. But we'll see what happens.
Seeing the amount that Fox is paying SmackDown, I expect more of an emphasis on SmackDown. Although, hey, last night I loved that show. I thought SmackDown last night was a great watch. This has been really cool. I've said this a few times, but once one domino fell, the rest fall shortly after, and we had the Fox news, we had the UFC news, we had the expanded UFC news, then we had the NBCU number kind of coming out. It's an exciting time. It's like NBA free agency. Everybody's waiting for one person to make one move, and then all of a sudden everything happens in the matter of like a few days. It's really, really cool. It's really exciting to kind of see that all unfold.
Stephanie McMahon can definitely buy stadiums full of ghee now.
She
could. If she couldn't before, she can now.
She could go to omg.com to do that. Thanks to them again for their super chat this week.
Oh, there you go. It's because we were promoting ghee. That's why.
Well, I'm sure.
Anybody want your butter fat, get yourself a cup and a straw and hit up omg.com.